welcome back. Merry Christmas, everyone. It's Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Jake Brown here alongside Brian Costello, who was there at the game today. Cause we said 10,000. Do we know the act? I know they're going to announce 72,000, but do we know?
You'll never know the actual number, Jake, unless you know somebody with the New Jersey Exposition Authority or someone inside the Jets that would know that number.
Was it half empty, a quarter empty? What did it look like out there?
I'm bad at that. It was pretty empty, but it was kind of scattered, so it's hard to tell how empty because there were some people in the upper deck, more than I thought probably there. It was, the weather wasn't bad. So I think, hopefully a lot of people got to go see a game that don't usually get to see a game. I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter, people giving away tickets, and you hope that some kids got to see their first Jets game, that don't usually get to go.
Yeah, and that's the stories you do love because at this time you're a diehard, this game means nothing. But you're a kid, you're like, oh, I'm going to a football game. It's Christmas Eve, it's the holidays. It's like $10 to sit lower level. Like it's the time of their lives. So that's who really should enjoy this one. And ended up being quite an entertaining game, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, crazy game.
What a collapse. And I'll be honest. Once the Jets blew this game, I did not want them to win. I said, just lose. Don't fall from now. It'll be 10th. Assuming the Raiders lose on Christmas, the Jets will be 10th in the draft. So they would have been 4th if they had lost that game. So when they were winning, I was like, oh, this is great. Breece is great. Garrett's great. Defense great. But once they blew it, I was like, just lose. But they make the 54-yard kick. The kids leave happy. Jets fans leave happy. Winning games in the NFL is tough. But Kaz, what a seesaw affair, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. Usually the Jets start off slow. Today they start off really fast. 17 points in the first quarter, most since 2014, which is incredible when you think about it. Yeah, so felt like it was going to be a blowout. And then Jacoby Brissett came in, and wow, he's
how's he not their starter? I don't
know. I saw Commander's beat writer after the game, and I asked her, I'm like, what's the deal? She said they kind of were committed to see if Howell was the future, but which I get at the beginning of the season, but they're all going to get fired. Like, what do they care about the future? Not like try to win games, spoil the draft pick for the next guy. That's what I would do if I was Ron Rivera. And Jacoby Brissett is clearly a much better quarterback than Sam Howell right now.
I think I said on this show before, I wish the Jets had Brissett as their backup. $8 million, he'll be a free agent. I'm all in on signing Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jake. After that today, I think that's going to linger in the Jets' minds when free agency approaches of how good he was today, because he completely flipped the game. They were dead, and then they get the interception. Give the linebacker credit, like he gets that interception. Brissett comes in 3 straight touchdown drives, and I think he had 2 last week.
He did the same thing last week because I was watching that on Red Zone. Yeah.
So like, what the heck are you doing? Play the guy. It's very, very strange.
They looked committed to the tank in the first half. This game was 20-0. It was 17-0 a few minutes in. You're like, what is like this is something that happens to the Jets. It was like the Chargers game, Jets Chargers, but the other way around is what was going on. I was like, what is are the Commanders the Jets, and like what is this? And
they couldn't do anything. They were fumbling, interceptions, block punt, offsides on a punt return, which I don't think I've ever seen before.
Jamison Crowder fumbling it to himself. Like, what was that?
Yeah, they were making some crazy mistakes. So
Jamison Crowder, a former Jet, we remember him well. That was like his Christmas present. What the hell was that? Didn't even get touched, and he just loses the ball, throws it in the air, and it's a fumble. This one looked over at halftime, and like you said, Brissett comes in, does great 2 weeks in a row. Like, I'm all over him. If you get him $8 million as a backup, I think that's a steal. They're in a tough spot too, because Howell's, a 5th round pick, so you can just give up on him, I guess. But he only had this year.
They're gonna have a whole new regime. I'm sure they're gonna give up on him.
They're gonna draft a quarterback. Yeah.
They're gonna draft their own quarterback probably, and go start over.
And it took the Commanders' defense, cause for Breece Hall to return to greatness. A stat I saw on Twitter, pretty incredible. His second career game with 95 plus rushing and 95 plus receiving yards. Walter Payton did that 3 times. Brian Westbrook, Priest Holmes, Thurman Thomas, and Larry Brown had 2. No one else in the history of the sport has done it more than once. So Breece has done it twice already in 2 years. And listen, the Commanders' defense is atrocious. But we've said on the show many times, get it to your 2 playmakers. 267 of the Jets' total yards came from Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. It's not that hard when you draw it up for the two great ones.
My cat's crying back here, Jake. I'm trying to get her out of here. Yeah, no, I mean it was. You got to give credit to the offensive line too, Jake. I think that kind of gets overlooked in this because they were so bad last week in Miami. No sacks in this game. Right after all the sacks last week, Simeon had time. There was holes for Breece. They did a good job today. Another combination. This was the 12th different combination the Jets have had in the offensive line, and this one did pretty well. But yeah, I mean, look, the formula, we know the formula. Get the ball to Garrett and Breece and let them do their thing. And I thought Simeon did a good job of that. We've seen other quarterbacks this year who have not been able to do that. He was clearly, earlier I thought he was just kind of going to Garrett, he was committed to it. And then late, Breece had a ton of big catches late, just kind of dump offs that on that last drive that set things up. He had a run on the last drive. He really did a nice job.
I remember you said the last episode, I think Mark Sanchez, was it the Christmas Eve game, threw the ball 60 times? Was that the number?
Yeah. Yeah, it was over 60 over 60 dropbacks because he got sacked a few times.
49 attempts for Trevor Simeon. I don't think we were expecting that coming into this one.
This was the longest game I've ever been
So
at.
long. Oh.
So the first quarter was incredibly long. So like the Jets, you have the box score in front of you, Jake?
Yeah.
They must have run 80 plays. How many plays did they run?
Yeah, 85 plays. The Commanders had 58 plays.
Yeah, so I don't remember last time the Jets ran 85 plays. It's been a while. So it's yeah, it was a lot of plays. It was just a long game.
A lot of penalties contributed to the game being long. How about that?
Yeah,
14 for 150.
Yeah, with some huge. I mean, if they had lost this game, we'd be talking about Sauce pass interference. We'd be talking about Mosley hitting Brissett in the head. We talked about DJ Reed in the end zone, which I thought was a questionable call.
He did too. He sounded off on he quote tweeted someone who didn't even mention him about how bad of a call, soft of a call was, and how many soft calls.
Yeah, I thought it was on Jordan Whitehead because he kind of hit him late. Like he put his shoulder down. I thought it was gonna be on him, and then they called the PI. So yeah, a lot of penalties in this game, Jake, and just there was a lot of injuries. It was just a slow game.
Yeah, I thought this one might end on Christmas. It was going that long. I was like, I don't know. But either way, if they had blown it or the victory, it's a story because they blow it. They're a top 5 pick in the draft potentially, and maybe it ends that way if they lose the next two. They win it. They fall out of the top 9, around 10 right now, and they pick up their 6th win. And it was good to see. And it's a big story that they won because you had the exclusive to start the day of the return of Saleh and Douglas. Now it's funny. The last episode was titled "The Future of Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas." So maybe Woody saw the headline or listened to the show. Take us through your story and your conversation with Woody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was unexpected, Jake, right? I think we've all kind of been leaning towards that Saleh and Douglas would be back. It just kind of makes sense with Aaron Rodgers coming back and not having a total regime change. We've talked about that on here. Other people have talked about it, but talking to Woody this morning, he's made his decision. Even with there was 3 games left at the time, fourth quarter, he might have been questioning that decision. I don't know, but yeah, like he believes in these two guys. He praised the culture. He feels like if they had Aaron Rodgers, it'd be a different story. He mentioned quarterback play. He likes what he's seen from the defense. So I think he feels like if they can get a few pieces on offense, including the return of Aaron Rodgers, they can be a really good team next year with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas at the helm.
I was going to say it's an interesting time to do it with 3 games left before the third to last game of the year. Could have just waited another week or two. So maybe he's. I mean, you talked about on Twitter how he sees the tweets. Maybe he's seeing and hearing the noise, and he wanted to clear that noise.
I think he probably wanted to end the noise, Jake, and make sure these guys can just go through the last couple weeks here without worrying about their jobs. I think he's told them this privately, so make it public and just kind of, temper that conversation a little bit. I don't know if it ends it. People are still going to talk about it, but it's not as big of a question anymore.
Did you see Woody today? Was this in person?
Yes, it was in person. Yeah.
Did he have the chain on?
He did have the chain on. Yes.
That must have been even better talking to him with the chain on. Just has that ever happened to you? Like with him? Have you been in his presence while he's had the chain on right in front of you?
I don't think so. I think this was the first time because
Let's
I
go.
really I haven't seen him in a while. I've like I've seen him across the field like at training camp. He had it on, I think, but and I've seen him obviously at games with it on, but I don't think I've talked to him in a while.
Yeah, it's different when I have my TJ Maxx chain on Zoom and Woody Johnson has a real, probably worth five-figure chain in person, and he's a billionaire. Has a big difference. Interesting. Yeah, so that was the big news to start the day. So you had a busy day today, huh, guys?
Yes, I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. Been a long day, and waiting my family to come home from their Christmas Eve, and
I was gonna say, just imagine you had to drive to Western New Jersey after
yeah,
this.
I'm sure my wife's gonna come home and have 8,000 things I have to do for to prepare for Christmas morning. So
How does Christmas morning work in the Costello household? Do you set up the presents? Does your wife?
we both did together, but they're getting a little older. My son's 14, my daughter's 10, so it's not as quite as much toys and stuff as it used to be.
Is it
You know,
split shopping? Does she do all the shopping?
she does almost all the shopping.
Okay.
I did some of it this year, but she does 90% of it.
And now, what teams do your kids like? Is one of them a Jets fan, or they don't care? Giants? Or,
No, my son's a Cowboys fan.
oh,
My daughter has become a Chiefs fan this year. You can
uh,
guess why.
yes, Travis and Taylor. Yes, somebody
They're
did
more
bring that up.
Taylor than Travis, yes. And
Yes, yes.
I coach softball. I've seen some of my softball players recently, and they're all Chiefs fans. So, who if they all stick with it, there's going to be this group of girls this age that are all Chiefs fans. So it's going to be interesting.
It's a good life for them. I mean, it's a very good life. They
Told
get.
her, I said that's good. She used to like Tom Brady. She rooted for the Bucks when Tom Brady was. She's still young, where she's bouncing around. She doesn't watch football a ton, but yeah, my son's a Cowboys fan. He fell in love with Zeke and Dak back when they were rookies.
Listen, it's going to be interesting if Taylor and Travis break up and Taylor's dating like Aaron
Oh,
Rodgers or
yeah.
something, and then they got to switch to the Jets, and then their life is ruined. So they better hope that's a long-term relationship. I still don't know if it's going to last or not because they don't want to switch the fandom because that's Cowboys is a little questionable. They lose today on the last second field goal. The end there was a little intriguing too with the Jets field goal. It was like, what they're throwing it away. They're giving them time on the clock. There was some interesting time management. There was also weird time management with the Commanders. Listen, it's 3rd and 10. The Jets have 2 timeouts. You are 4-10. I didn't get them running it and just playing conservative
Well,
when
they
you're
wanted
four
the
and
Jets to use
ten.
the timeout. They wanted the Jets to use the timeout.
But you throw it and get a first, and the game is over. You're 4-10. I found that kind of
Yeah,
odd.
I mean, I think the usual thing is to run it there and make the team use their timeout. So then the Jets would only have one timeout. Because if they have two, that's a different game. Because the Jets did have a little tricky management there on that last one with the one timeout.
Yeah,
I that throw, the Simeon throw, I was like, oh my god, like that ball seemed to be in the air forever where he threw it. He was throwing it out of bounds, but oof, that looked like a dangerous throw to me.
yeah. Imagine a pick
And
and
Greg Zerline, let me say this, Jake. Greg Zerline is the most anti-Jets player, like anti what you expect, because for how many years would the Jets kicker have missed that kick, right? They
every
got
year.
every year, right? So like, he's incredible. He kind of goes against all the Jets jinxes and stuff. Like he's been great.
They got a kicker. They got a defense. They got to bring back Thomas Morstead. And now you fill out the rest. The offensive line, like you said, they played well, but it's going to look a lot different next year. What do you think the
Yeah.
future of Mekhi Becton is? Because I feel like he's had just the injuries, the penalties. He's had a lot of big penalties. Is his Jets career over after this year?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
You think it is?
I don't think the only way I could see him coming back is if he doesn't get interested in free agency like early and like comes back for a 1 year prove it type deal. But I don't even think that's going to happen. I think somebody will pay him in free agency, but it ain't going to be the Jets. He
Yeah.
hasn't had a great. He hasn't had a great year, Jake. I give him credit for coming back from the injury. He's played all year, but it hasn't been pretty.
And maybe his replacement, who knows now that they fell in the draft? It's the Alabama kid, Latham, the Penn
Oh,
State kid,
boy.
Joe Alt, the other one everyone talking about. One of those three. If you
It's
lose out
very
on all three of
early.
those, whew,
It's very early, Jake, because I know people are going to be fixated on, oh, now they're ninth, they won't, or 10th, they won't get this guy or that guy. Like, it's very early. There's going to be a lot of changes between now and April in where people are going in the draft.
Any shot you think they trade up or down either way, or they stay
It's
put?
way too early to have that conversation, Jake.
Way too early. 4 months ahead of time here. But the Jets, they end up with a win, 30-28. Give you a little Christmas present. Some of you not a present if you were in the team tank. Breece Hall, incredible. Garrett Wilson, incredible. The defense was okay. Second half, they were spotty though, and we hear. What did you think? We'll close on this before we look ahead at Jets Browns. What do you think of Saleh and Douglas being back? Are you? I feel like you always thought this was happening.
Yeah, I just think I think the way the timeline of the organization is right now, it didn't make sense to get rid of them and start over, right? Like this is going to be a all in go for it 2024 team. And with Aaron Rodgers, with the core that they have here, you bring in a new coach, a new GM, you're starting over. Like it's very rare when they come in and don't want their own players. The Aaron Rodgers thing, like you can say, oh, he runs the team and that kind of stuff. To me, it's just like he came here in part because he likes Solid Douglas and obviously Nathaniel Hackett as well. Throw him in there. Now you're going to say, okay, we're going to hire new coaches. You would have to like basically let him hire who he wanted to hire, right? Like people can get mad that he's got this leverage, but he does. He's a 4-time MVP. They traded for him. So it just never made sense to me to move on. And I think these two guys, like, look, they haven't been perfect by any means. They've had plenty of things you can point to and say aren't good, and starting with their records, but they deserve a year with Aaron Rodgers with a quarterback. Part of this is their own making. When they drafted Zach Wilson, they haven't done well, but I want to see Saleh coach with a good quarterback, and if I think they go into next year knowing it's now or never. If they don't win next year, there will be a lot of changes for 2025.
Yeah, it's the swan song next year. Like if you're not at least making the playoffs, they're done, and you move on, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully, Jacoby Brissett is the backup, just in case they run into a similar situation.
They need to hope they don't need a backup. That's what they need to hope. They need to
Yeah,
hope they get 17 games of Aaron Rodgers and he can play like 2020, 21 Aaron Rodgers, you know.
yeah. Well, let's just hope, just in case. There's no Simeon, there's no Boyle, there's no Zach Wilson, and there's someone competent. Well, someone competent the Jets used to have as a backup is Joe Flacco, and that's who the Jets will face on Thursday. Jets Browns. Browns win again. Cause I mean, Joe Flacco was 27 of 42, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns. Amari
Jeez.
Cooper 11 for 265 and 2 touchdowns. He was absolutely sensational against the Texans, who are free falling here now without CJ Stroud. Jaguars also lost, so that AFC South is going to come down here to the final few weeks, but man, how about Joe Flacco? I mean, I know you said, someone in the organization didn't want him back at the Jets, but man, he is throwing absolutely perfect balls down the field, just deep balls left and right. And this is going to be a tough matchup here for the Jets defense.
Joe Flacco is always throwing a great deep ball. Jay, he's got one of the strongest arms you'll ever see. You could I liked watching him practice in training camp when he was here because he was just he didn't care either. Like he would just throw the ball all over the field in practice. And I always thought Zach Wilson could take something from him because Zach always seemed afraid to throw interceptions. Joe ain't afraid. Like he'll throw it all around. Sometimes it's going to look really good. Sometimes he's going to throw picks. So the Jets defense is pretty good against the deep ball, Jake. I know Miami got him last week with Waddle, right? But I can't think of many other times the ball's gone over their heads. They're more susceptible to the underneath stuff, and that's by design. They'll, if you want, they kind of like to tempt quarterbacks to try them. If you're patient and you pick them apart, that's usually the better formula. So it'll be an interesting matchup. I'm just curious how the Jets bounce. They come off of this high of this win, and then 4 days later they have to play. They have Christmas. They off. People have families. They got stuff to do tomorrow. It's a tough, quick turnaround going to Cleveland, and the Browns clearly are playing very well. So it should be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and Flacco, even with those deep shots, he did throw 2 picks, but they still win 36-22. So, like you said, he'll take some shots. Some of them won't work. Maybe a few of them are picked off by Reed and Sauce on Thursday. But yeah, this quick turnaround, the holiday, I mean, I assume they're not going to be practicing essentially. just a few walkthroughs
No,
this
they'll
week.
have a walkthrough. Yeah, they'll probably have walkthroughs Tuesday, Wednesday, I would think.
Yeah, well, if the Jets find a way to win, they will find themselves in that weird, potential 13th, 14th pick. And again, still early to talk about that, but I assume you're taking the Browns here.
I haven't even thought about it yet, Jake, but my early inclination would probably be Browns, but I haven't even looked at it yet.
Yeah, I'm taking the Browns, something like a 27-13 kind of score. They're just rolling right now. Their defense, one of the best in the league, top in the league. And Flacco's just going to get one of those deep balls, and that might be all that they need. I assume Trevor Siemian is probably going to start again Thursday, right?
I would think so. Zach could get cleared, I guess, if he practiced twice this week. So we'll see what they tell us tomorrow about Zach, where he's at. But I would assume Simeon will be out there Thursday.
Alrighty, Jets, Browns 10-5. What a season for them. Once Deshaun Watson got hurt, they did not lose a beat. They just keep finding ways to win. Well, the story today is the Jets win. They fall in the draft, but Breece Hall was absolutely remarkable, and the Jets missed this out of him. They missed a run game, period. They got it. And a little bit Izzy. The Izzy show today, finally. We saw some Izzy, and that was good to see as well. Well, I'll be back Friday morning, post-game Jets Browns. Kaz, you'll be back in next year. I'll see you next year.
All
We use
right.
that line for the first time. 2024. Hope you have a Merry Christmas with the family. Happy New Year. And we'll talk to you to preview Jets Pats. Will the Jets finally get a win over the Patriots? This seems like it could be the time it happens. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll close this episode next. Alrighty, good stuff there. As that says, adios to episode 174 of Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz for helping me in producing the show. Watch us on that New York Post Sports YouTube page. Give us a thumbs up below. Comment below your favorite Christmas movie. Let us know what you're doing for Christmas. And let us know what you thought of the game, the win. Because, did you want them to lose there? Were you happy that they pulled off the victory? They fall in the draft. It could mean losing out on a, top tier offensive lineman. But, wins are hard to come by in the NFL. So let us know in the comments what you think. And if you're an audio person, make sure you're subscribed on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write in a nice review on Apple Podcasts. And on Spotify, you can give us a 5-star rating as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Brown Radio and follow Kaz at Brian Kaz. Merry Christmas, everyone. I'll be alone this Christmas, and, emotions have been down for me here. And, I'm sure there's other people alone, but, I have a family. And there's people out there who have lost their loved ones who don't have those loved ones to be with this Christmas. So think about them. And if you're with your family, cherish your time with your loved ones. Enjoy. If you're alone like me, make the best of it. Have a Diet Coke, have a good meal, do something that makes you happy. This is a tough time this month, financially, emotionally, stressful for many people. Gift giving, it's just a rough month. So I'm right there with you if you're feeling that way. And, we hope to raise your spirits here on Gangs All Here. And we wish you and your families a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season. I will be back solo here, most likely on Friday morning, for the next episode, a post-game episode reacting to Jets Browns. There will be no preview for that Browns game this week. So check me out on the post-game Gangs All Here coming on Friday. And then Kyle's will be back to preview the finale against the Patriots at the start of 2024. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for listening to Gangs All Here. We'll talk to you on Friday. Happy holidays.